Welcome into another episode of Prospect, Produce, Prosper. I am John Jag. I'm joined as always by Marc Rogers from Producers Prospect. Marc, always a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, Jag. Excited about this one. I'm in Dallas, Texas this week. And finally, as we're getting into November here, it's starting to finally kind of cool off. And I've got a seminar tonight, one tomorrow night. I'm excited about our guest today. This is literally Jag, the guy that brought me into the business. This is my mentor.
Oh, wow.
This is the guy I quote on a daily basis. And, honestly, like another father figure for many, many years of my life. So I'm so excited, and the industry knows him very well. But if you don't, I want to bring on Doug McDermott, who founded the annuity store when there wasn't even such thing as an IMO. I think Doug got in the business around 1979 as an independent agent and has really set the tone. And one of the things, Jag, that I love about Doug, and really the reason why I'm putting 115, 120 nights in a Marriott, is how he's always led by example. So Doug was never one of those guys to say, hey, go out and do this, but I've never done it myself.
Right.
He actually does it himself. Since, 1993, Doug, he's probably done 2,000 plus consumer seminars. He's trained financial advisors for the majority of his career. I mean, just a juggernaut in our industry and a guy that just simply never quits. So if you ever get a chance, he can hit a golf ball a mile still. He and I both share football blood together. And he's somebody that when we are entering the industry that we are today, and as things are changing so fast, I really wanted to bring Doug on because I want to almost take a step back and have people remember really why we do what we do, how we should be passionate about it, and frankly, how we should be communicating that to our investors or potential investors. So with that, Doug, thank you for being on.
You bet, Mark. I'm really happy to be with you and grateful for the opportunity to do so.
Well, we've been talking about this for a long time to get together, so I'm excited we finally put our schedules together. You're a busy guy. You're tough to track down. What part of the world are you today?
Believe it or not, I'm in Henderson, Nevada today. We moved to Henderson. My 3 grandsons moved here, and I remember when my daughter first called, she said, Daddy. And as soon as I heard the word Daddy, I knew something was taking place. So we sold our 2 homes, and here we are.
So I wanted to just start with, if you could give our listeners a brief background on yourself, how you got into the industry. I think that's a really kind of a cool story, and kind of bring us up to speed on what you're doing today.
You bet. I'd be happy to. Well, yes, I did get into business July of 79. I'm old as dirt, I guess. That's what you'd probably think now. But this is my 43rd year in the business. I got in as an independent agent, commission only, no draw, no salary. And I actually went into a hybrid captive agency. I was recruited along with several others to go into this agency. I still remember the name of that agency. It was the Mel Harris Agency. He was a retired U.S. Air Force E9, which is a sergeant major. And his second career, he got into the insurance business and recruited a lot of individuals just like myself. He recruited a lot of athletes right out of college. So I went into that agency and literally started from scratch. My background in college, criminal justice, criminal law, and then went into business to learn that area. But how many people when they're little kids think, when I grow up, I'm going to go in the insurance business. So it was really interesting. From July to December, I had only written 11 cases, which I call now enrollments. So I went from my football playing weight. I dropped a lot of weight because if you don't eat, that's just the way it is. And I never gave up. But the January of the following year, literally, I wrote an application every day I went to work, along with an annuity. So that's how I got a passion for doing annuities, was back when I first got into business. Mel Harris brought me in, and after a month or so, he said, I need someone to speak to all of our agents on the subject of annuities. And he looked at me and he said, I select you, Doug. You're going to be that person. And I looked at him like, okay. And he handed me about 15 different companies. No joke. And he said, here's your assignment. I want you to look at these 15 companies. I want you to read every one of the policies that talk about annuities. And then you're going to be the expert and you tell the entire agency. Now, remember, I'd only been like 2 months. So I looked at him and like, you got to be kidding me. But my passion started from that point of doing everything I could and understanding that he says, you don't have a choice and don't let me down. That's how I got into have compassion with annuities.
Talk about trial by fire. It's almost like he anointed you or knighted you and took the sword and down on each shoulder and said, you are the chosen one, Doug. This is going to be your calling.
Yeah, and you know what? That is exactly what happened. But little did he realize was the passion that he helped me create. Because one, I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of this agency. It was a good-sized agency. And number two, I just wanted to do my very best. And little did I know that I would come to love two things. One is learning the fundamentals about annuities, and two, being able to teach the fundamentals about annuities. And that became my passion.
I think it's really interesting. Fear of failure is a very strong motivation for many folks, particularly when they're starting their career. But I love that it turned into a passion for you, and it's become a passion for you 4 decades later.
And you know what? When I do my training seminars, even till today, I have so much fun, and my passion is to a peak. Because my entire career, my goal is to do better than I did the last time I got in front of people. That is when you know you have a passion.
You know, it's interesting. As I travel throughout the country and people put Doug and I together, if somebody's had an experience or they know Doug, they always tell me their Doug story. You know, like, oh, I got to tell you this. You know, I know that you and Doug have a great relationship. Let me tell you about my story. You know, that's always meant something to me that they tell, you know, where they went golfing with you or what you did with them that was unique, different, all the different parts of the world that you've taken advisors on trips and, you know, you've been in the trenches with them. And again, that's something that I felt like I want to carry that torch on and have people know me like that. But there's something else too, of when you've worked with investors directly, how you've always kind of put their needs and their wants first and how that's always then compensated you or taking care of your family. And I think that that's a lost art. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you know, one, I sit down with an advisor and I always like to kind of find out, why do you do what you do? What's your passion? What's your why? Because then I want to align my why with them, right? That makes us unique and it makes us connected together, and then we can work off of that. Doug, talk about that a little bit, just on how today and how you've seen the industry change and how people need to put, you know, their clients first.
I believe what we are seeing is they're missing the greatest part of the why, and that is having a servant's heart. What does that really mean, having a servant's heart? It means that you will do everything in your power, your ability, to make sure that you can service that individual with their needs and help them understand the features and the benefits, whatever they're trying to express that they want and they need, is make sure you have that servant's heart to help them, to eventually help them enroll into a program to give them the features and benefits they find of value. But that servant's heart is what makes you different. It gives you the passion to serve. And you don't look at, well, what is it I'm going to get compensated on? That means tiddly freaking squat if you really have a servant's heart.
Yep. Jag, you'll love this. Doug's got a saying, and I think in today's environment, people are so nervous. Doug, I just had 4 financial advisors around a conference room yesterday. And they were nervous that now we have all these new regulations that we have to disclose the fact that they may have a conflict of interest. These guys are registered investment advisors. And so they collect a fee. But then if they sell life insurance or annuities or other commissionable products, and they were nervous about having to set that in front of somebody and say why they should earn a commission. you've got such great language and you're so polished. Give us the line when you go to explain somebody that you're going to make a commission on this. What do you say?
I've tried to do just that with others, is help them feel comfortable.
Yep.
And so when I ask the client directly, would it be all right with you if I get compensated for the services I render? Is it all right with you? And they look at me and they said, well, of course. He says, but I want you to understand I get compensated by the companies I represent, but not by you. Is that all right with you? And they look at me like, of course.
Yeah. Why would they say no to that?
Yeah. How are they going to say no? Because I'm letting them understand and ask, is it all right with you if I get compensated for the services I render? They're going to come with an answer. How are they going to say no?
That's right.
I love that.
And then when I tell them too that this compensation is paid directly by the companies I recommend and I represent, not by you as an individual. And then once again, is that all right with you? And they look at me like, oh, that makes sense.
Yep. Simple.
Can I get paid for the service I'm giving you, but not by you? That's a pretty easy question to answer.
Isn't that simple?
I love it.
And how honest is that? The more that you're honest with your client, and isn't that what they really want? Don't they want you to be honest with them? And if you ask the questions honestly and then let them respond, they're not going to care about how you're compensated, because I don't use the word commission any longer. I've stopped that. And they say, isn't that compensation commission? I said, yes, commission is compensation, but would you allow me to be compensated for the services I render? And they said, well, of course.
Well, I love all of the one-lines and the ability to communicate effectively with investors and with people. And you're still doing a lot of the coaching. How many groups and advisors are you still coaching today?
Actually, in the thousands. And I have been asked to work with IMOs to now start helping even larger groups. And so we'll see what happens starting next year. But my why I'm doing this is for my foundation. People ask, why are you doing this after I know you've retired at least 3 or 4 times? And I said, yes, one, I have a passion of training the fundamentals. I have a passion that I want the client to get what they need. And then I want the agent or advisor or asset protector to be able to learn how to use the right words, phrases, and sentences so that he or she can have that servant's heart in actually helping the end user. My why is my foundation. And that foundation is the Gift of Gratitude Foundation. And we give back to veterans, first responders, peace officers, and we actually present works of art for their services in defending liberty and the sacrifices that they make to our country, her people, and to God. So that's my why.
I love it.
We'll link to your foundation in our show notes as well.
So Doug, let's transfer to the crazy market that we're seeing out there today, right? And here we are coming off the longest equity bull run that we've ever seen. Market evaluations are at an all-time high. Interest rates have been dropping since the 1980s. Now we're at a 4% 10-year treasury rate, and the 60-40 equity to bond blend seems to be the worst it's ever performed ever before. Yet you have this massive group of retirees, the boomers, going through their retirement, and they can't afford to stomach any more setbacks. They can't do another 2008. Yet fewer and fewer people have pension plans today. And I'm kind of making the case for, where do you see our fixed indexed annuity live today?
I believe the fixed indexed annuity has such a great part in helping people not only prepare for retirement, but when they're in retirement. And the use of our fixed index annuities are going to help them go through retirement. It's not just getting to retirement that's important. It's actually living through it. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Doesn't help if you get there and then you run out of money once you're there.
I mean, that sucks, doesn't it? The key of fixed index annuities, and why I've had such a passion since I got into business in July of 79, is when I learned what annuities offered, and that was the greatest benefit was an income they could not outlive. And back even in 1979, when I learned that by studying and then found out how it worked and the value it brought, then I started asking myself, how many others can guarantee an income they can't outlive? Stocks can't, bonds can't, banks can't. I went down this whole list. They couldn't do that. There was only one industry that could guarantee an income you couldn't outlive: the insurance industry, the life insurance industry. So the fixed index annuity opportunity is really for the agent, the advisor, the asset protector to ask the questions and find out what is it you need as an income to help you go through your retirement, not just get to retirement. That's the real blessing. Once that's asked, then ask them, and when do you need to start? Is it now, 1 through 10 years or 10 years plus? Find out those simple things. I still see these advisors doing 25 pages worth of questions to get to those 3 things. And how long did it take you?
It took you 3 questions.
That's it. I just did what 20 some odd pages would take. That's why fundamentals is the greatest opportunity to serve others. Is don't talk over their head. Don't talk beneath them. Talk with them. Ask the right questions of value. Then you'll find out, wow, this is what they really want. Well, then don't waste 25 pages of questions. Ask what they need and then see how you can serve them.
Jag, as he's talking, I go back to Doug knows his demographic. He knows how to communicate to them more effectively than anybody else I know, down to the little things and how the little things matter. And Doug is a pure marketer at heart. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. His business card, okay, Jag, his business card's about the size of a 3x5 card. Is it not, Doug?
Yeah, and I still use it.
Thicker paper. You can touch and you can feel it. So when you get that and you look at it, and by the way, back in the day when you used to have a Rolodex,
yep,
and you would stick that thing in the Rolodex, which one would stand out more than everybody else?
Mine.
Doug's card, right?
Even now, I go to a happy hour, a networking event, and I leave with a stack of business cards. Which ones stick out of that stack? Different shape, different size, different feel to it. You were ahead of your time figuring that out, Doug.
Yeah, it was fun. People would look at those cards. I won't use the words that I heard from a retired Navy SEAL.
Understood.
But he just said, that is the biggest, and then he used these words, card I've ever seen in my use those colorful words again, in my life. And I said, but do you think you'll lose it or get discarded? He says, no, I effing won't. And he kept using that terminology because he said, I've never seen a card that big.
You certainly made an impression.
Yes, I did. He says, an impression is, I care about you more than you can imagine. I want you to know I am there for you. And he looked at me again. He goes, you know what? I've never had an answer like that before. He says, I'd love to refer you to some of my buddies.
Wow.
The bigger card, I get more referrals from. And is that not what is of great value in our industry? Is the referrals?
Oh, it's gold.
I'm still averaging 3 to 5 referrals per enrollment and per client every time I visit with somebody. It's the little things. It's the fundamental things.
Well, there's not a birthday that goes by or, anniversary or something, I get a card for Doug. I mean, it's those touches, Jag, as you know, we're constantly trying to promote on here those best practices, those things. And these just, they live forever. They're like vinyl right now. They just live forever.
I think the real key is having that servant's heart.
Yeah.
If you really, really care, people know you really, really love them too.
You're begging me to ask the question, Mark. If Doug sends you a birthday card, is it a greeting card or is it a poster board?
Well, it's always got a handwritten note. It's something special in there. It's personalized.
Yeah.
And anytime you get anything in the mail anymore today, when it's something like that, you open it every single time and you remember who remembered about you, right?
Yeah.
So it's those little things. Dinner seminars. As we spend the next few minutes, here, Doug, I'm coming off of, I think I've done 118 nights after this trip in a Marriott somewhere. I know you appreciate that.
I can respect that.
And I've personally spoken at, 80 plus live events. And again, going back to the little things, it's those things you were teaching years and years ago that I still do every single time. I still flip a quarter and I hand out dollar bills every single time. We always have a celebration at the end with a cake. And I'll tell you, last week I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, beautiful Lincoln, Nebraska, right? The highlight of one's trip. And they only had one server to help 40 of our guests at the seminar. And so when salad plates were done, this poor girl was going around, trying to help everybody, and everybody was asking her to fill her drink, and they were understaffed. And I took my jacket off, I rolled my sleeves up, and I started picking up plates and filling up glasses. And people started making comments. They started talking amongst themselves. That was an old Doug McDermott move. And I would have done that anyways, just because I saw that she needed help. But imagine what we were teaching the group of who we were, right? And what was funny is the advisor was standing over by himself and he started watching me do this. And then he jumped in and started doing it.
I was really hoping you were going to say that, but that goes back to what Doug said about a service mindset.
That's right.
The fun thing too is when you're handing out those individual cakes yourself, people look at you like, do you know you were the ones who just spoke a moment ago? And I said, yes, but don't you want to see how I will serve you the rest of your life? And they look at you and says, I'm in.
Yep.
And you would hear that at each table. People say, I'm in. No one has ever done that. Usually this guy comes in, or the gal comes in, they speak, and they leave. And then they have this team of people after they leave trying to get appointments. And he said, you're not doing that. He says, if I am to be an example of what a servant's heart is, should I not truly serve you starting today, starting now?
Forgive the old radio DJ and me making the pun here, but you really make that decision a piece of cake at that point.
Well, the cake, literally, and what type of cake did we mostly serve too, Mark? Do you remember?
Carrot cake.
Why?
Well, because even the people that say they're on a diet will have a piece of carrot cake.
That's exactly right. And think about the people who are diabetics. They will look at the carrot cake and say, well, my doctor can give me exception, and it is a carrot cake. So we picked the cake that people would all smile, laugh, and tell you, that's the only cake I can have. And yet we did it by research and watching people smile and laugh. And it didn't matter the age, they all smiled.
It just goes back to everything you've hit on in previous episodes, Mark, about the details, making sure the signage is right, making sure the place setting is right, making sure the venue is right. On down the list, it's easy to see where you got these ideas from. Doug's rattling them off right now.
Yeah, we have a manual. It's about 2.5, 3 inches thick. I still update to make sure that it is 100% system approved and 100% duplicatable. What Mark is doing is because it's correct, and he's doing it the right way. A system that is 100% duplicatable, why do you want to change it if it works every time?
So, Doug, you've been doing this for a really long time, and we try to teach a lot of the same core principles of all the little things matter. The room temperature, the proper music that connects to the group in the room, down to how the seating is. I mean, just all the little details matter. And what's so interesting is that's probably some of the biggest pushback that I get from the financial advisors that say, no, let's just do it this way, or let's shove as many people as we can in the room. And so I wanted you to just kind of address that and really kind of wrap that up to tell our listeners, what have you learned over the years, and what are some of the just core things that have to happen at any live event that you do?
Well, after doing literally thousands of live events, and it's in the 2,000 live events, watching people's reactions from the audience when people don't realize everything you do is a system. Like you already mentioned, how do you want to place the silverware? Everything has to be away so they don't play with it. You have to have just one thing in front of them so that they can circle their answers, that they can follow through with what you're doing. You can make reference to what I call the blue sheet. I still use the blue sheet. And I'm still getting the highest percentage of appointments in the industry because I give 3 different ways to allow me to get back with them. But when they watch me serve them and the cake or the little things or the pie idea, remember, still using the raffles to hand out pies, fresh breads, all those little things, they still matter. What do I find in today's advisor, asset protector, or agent is they want to go too fast. They won't slow it down so that the client can feel what you're trying to get across. See, the audience doesn't just want to hear their message. They want to feel if they're going to be served. And feeling how they want to be served comes from a system. And making sure that system allows your audience to literally feel what you're trying to get across. You do have a servant's heart, and you want to do what's best for them.
If our listeners refer back to our previous episode, Marc broke down the percentages of content and how much of it is building rapport, how much of it is overcoming objections, and the actual content that you're giving is a lot smaller percentage than you would think.
And how you actually use the right words. People start using these real big words. The audience doesn't care about big words, do they? They want to feel the words you're using. And so words, phrases, and sentences. Why I even shared with you how I get compensated. I used the word all right with you. Did you notice I didn't use the word okay? What does the word okay do to trigger someone's mind?
It's very casual, or, the worst thing is nowadays you get a text message from somebody that says, K, and it's passive aggressive. All right is a lot more warm.
And all right triggers the brain that you have an actual caring involvement and you're wanting to have their response. An okay, they put up the wall immediately because all these different texts, one okay word on a text means 10 things now. Isn't that true?
Yes.
But when you even text the word all right, guess what it has? A one singular meaning. Now, how important is that? Those are the right choice of words. And that's what I still strive in teaching when I do fundamentals, teaching fundamentals. It's literally the words. I'll give one other one that's still fun that Marc will remember that he might not be using because you really have to make sure that the audience is okay with laughing. And that is letting the audience know ahead of time, no matter what their answer is, they're going to be very close tonight.
I forgot that. That's a good one.
And so if I ask a question and I say you're very close, I want you to know you are very close. But are they very, very close sometimes?
No.
No, not even in the right ballpark. But to know that they're still very close, what does that do to their heart and their mind?
Yeah, it's encouraging.
It's the same thing. Very close doesn't have a gazillion meanings like okay does. It's just like all right. It has one meaning, and it's there to have the heart react, not the brain, not aggression, not any of those anger things. It's literally going, oh, I was very close. Wow, that's great. And then you give the right answer and they look at you like, oh, I'm just very close, not close. Right?
Totally.
I was going to bring this up at the end of the podcast, but you're teeing me up for it, Doug. In our last episode, Marc was telling me how the staff at Delta Airlines told him they are not allowed to say next when they're grabbing the next customer in line. I flew Delta last week. I'm just back from vacation. There's a variation. They can say, I can help who's next. I can take who's next up here. But that sounds a lot different than next.
Yep. And see, it's the words. And then you put them into phrases. Then you put them into sentence. In fundamentals, we have a whole stack of these things. If you call them a stack, when we do fundamentals, that's what is lacking. I can have an audience of agents who are brand new to the business or someone 30 years. And when they leave, they just go, you know what? I learned more from today than I have in any other instruction. Why? It's fundamentals. And they're not learning or no one is teaching these fundamentals. Marc is, but others aren't teaching fundamentals. I try to explain it, the annuity 101 to 104 fundamentals. Everyone wants to start at the 105 level. Isn't that true, Mark?
Totally.
They want to go right to 105, talk to everybody's head, and then bring in all these stinking products. Products don't help the consumer because products change so fast. Here's a fun fact. How many indices being used by the insurance companies are there today? This is just a fun fact. And remember, no matter what your answer is, you're going to be very close, Mark. How does it guess?
Oh, hundreds.
Hundreds. That's right. 180 plus.
Yep.
Now, of that 180, how many are less than a year old or 6 months old?
I'd probably say 80% of them.
That's exactly right. So what's happening? Products are not doing what they said they're going to do. What's happening is an income you can't outlive. Isn't that what majority, Mark, all your clients in the audience, your prospective retirees or pre-retirees, and see, I call them Social Security recipients still and pre-Social Security recipients because they don't even like being called retirees. They hate being called seniors.
Yep.
So I let them know, in this audience, we have what's called Social Security recipients. And I asked them, how many are in that area? And you see all the hands go up. I said, would you rather be called retirees? No. How many of you like to be called seniors? They all say, no, I don't want to do that.
Nope.
So tailor names to touch the audience heart. So that's why I brought up how many indices are there today? 180 plus. They don't stay the same. But if you do features and benefits in this enrollment process, people then you can help find solutions so they can enroll into a program to give them the values that they want, not what you're trying to peddle. I think that's really coming across. And you probably can see my passion is I love what I do. I love helping the end producer, but I love helping those that want to serve with a servant's heart to help their clients.
Well, if you kind of wrap things up, I want to make sure that our listeners walk away. There was a bunch of nuggets in this. And I'd say the biggest nugget that I would say is, one, you got to have a why. You got to have a passion. You got to link that passion to who you're helping. Number two, you have to constantly serve people. You have to be out in the community. The whole concept of shaking hands and kissing babies, well, that's more than just shaking hands. That is rolling your sleeves up, getting involved in your community, and truly having a passion with that. The other major rock that I walked away with on this is slowing down. Today's advisor, they want to accumulate clients as fast as they possibly can. They want to categorize them into an A, B, and C, and they're on to the next, on to the next, on to the next.
Would you mind if I did a timeout there?
Go ahead.
And let me highlight what you just said and what it really means in layman's terms, of Humble 101 fundamentals. Would you allow me to do that? I know our time is going way too fast.
It would be all right. It would be all right.
I was just thinking that.
Okay, thank you. The key is the clients today, many of the major houses last year said to their advisors, they can no longer serve those under 500,000 in assets. Who do you think makes up most of America, middle America? What are their assets?
Under 500,000.
Okay, here's what's going to blow you away and why it's so important to put away all those horrible things that are being taught by IMOs and insurance companies and BDs and everything else is the client that they need to serve the most is the one that has the 144,000 in their 401k. And then if you take that out, the very top, it's 34,000. The average American has between 34 and 144,000 in their 401k. Those people don't like to be talked to fast. If you slow it down, you then have the opportunity to serve so many others. Your business will thrive and grow if you try to serve those who need your help the most. Think about it. How many people are going after the 500,000 or more? Everybody.
Yep.
How many are really trying to help the under 500,000?
Very few.
Isn't that true?
Yep.
So that's the part of slowing it down. Thank you.
And then all the little details matter, down to how the seating is set up, to your business card, how do you make yourself truly unique and different so that people remember who you are? Doug, if people want to connect with you, how do people connect with you? What's your website? How can people find you?
Well, I'm still at Doug at Concept Benefits Features. I still have that. And then with my foundation, people still contact me there because they know of a vet or suicide prevention, because we still are really heavy in working with chaplains on suicide prevention. Today, we're up to as many as 23 a day that we're losing to our vets and suicide. You think how humbling that is. Well, even active duty, the highest suicide rate is those that are non-commissioned officers in the U.S. Air Force in the drone area. We're working with the drone. So we still have that passion to serve, but it's easy to contact me at Doug at Concept Benefits Features, or just contact you and you can have them reach out to me, because that's what I do, is to strive to help others.
Well, we appreciate you being on. I hope that you will say yes, and it will be all right for you to come back another time.
Absolutely all right.
Okay, perfect.
Marc, if our listeners want to contact you directly at Producers Prospect, how do they find you?
Well, of course, at producersprospect.com or all of the social media sites. You can find me on LinkedIn, Marc Rogers, or Producers Prospect. And we're excited to talk with you and help take your practice to those goals and those needs that you want to accomplish.
Marc, it's been really good over our last however many episodes we've done now, getting to see you and the passion that you have for what you do. And now I've kind of gone as if I've seen the man behind the curtain. I've seen the wizard. I've seen where you picked it up from now that we've had Doug on the show. So, Doug, thanks for being here. Really great having you on the podcast.
Oh, glad to be with you. Enjoyed it to no end.
And Marc, go get some of that Texas brisket and we'll talk soon.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.